I was just on your podcast, Tim. We just recorded, and you did something where you just kind of eased into the conversation. You didn't do an intro like, "Hi, this is Tim, and I've got Matt Cornelison on with Fun Guy."
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. So maybe we should try that for the
But
first.
I realize if I do a rolling start, there is no trigger for you to think you're
Yeah.
on and you're off. You just feel like you're in the same conversation.
Well,
So
it's
that
funny
just,
that you said that, and so we're gonna roll. We're rolling right now. This is the podcast. We're in it now.
we're doing it. This is the way we do it. Yeah.
But like what you just said is like video 101 in our world. Like don't get the clapboard. Like if you're interviewing, we do a lot of interviews, kind of docu-style stuff where we're not working with actors. And you don't just say, okay, all right, cool. Now let's turn the lights on. Now let's get the clapboard out. Now we're gonna go 3, 2, 1, action.
Yeah.
Like we don't do that. We just record and we sort of ease into it, and it
It's
works.
already lit. They're sitting down in a lit room. The camera's almost rolling, or you tell them we're going to roll camera, and then
Yeah.
you start making them comfortable. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I love talking about this. I do think it's important for people to know that like you work with agencies, you work with creative entrepreneurs, you work with kind of a range of different people. You have a lot of, I think, a lot of understanding of what these different agencies are faced with, how they're working, what's working for them, how are they working with their clients. And I thought it'd be really awesome just to kind of talk about, you know, what is the role of an agency today?
I don't know if this is good news or bad news, but I've been doing this for over 30 years, right? Being in this industry for over 30 years. I did start out in live TV. I actually did gigantic shows like the Oscars and the Emmys and the American Music Awards and stuff like that.
I've heard of them. I
Yeah,
have
yeah.
heard of them. Yes.
Yeah, they're big events.
They're big.
And I was somehow dragged into the business side of those events because I knew Microsoft Excel, to be honest, and other PAs didn't, so I got the job. But then I worked for a studio that eventually became Imaginary Forces, and we were most known for doing the opening credits for the movie Seven, but we did opening credits for all of the big Hollywood films and producers. So that I really learned early on this idea that creative must win. Like that's embedded now in my whole process. And then through working at these studios, working with other creatives, you know, there's a group of people that I understood had problems that needed to be solved, and maybe I could just solve those problems. So my own journey kind of eventually gets to me starting a consultancy, going from like freelance problem solver, which is really like a producer or operations person or whatever, but that to asking bigger questions about what it means to be a business owner, the decisions you have to make in that process, and then, you know, adding 20 years to that perspective, what's going on in an entire industry that we have to embrace and be part of. Creative must win. You still have to be successful in business, but also you have to lean into these amazing evolutions that take place in our industry. So that background and that journey I've been on has informed me and informed and, you know, influenced how I inform my clients with different ideas or strategies that I give them.
There's these moments where change. Obviously, AI is like a big part of the conversation right now, and it's changing things. But you know, when I think about the folks that hire us and our clients, and you know, I want them to understand our value and understand how to work with us too. I want to teach them how to do that, right? And how does creative play a role there, like in those different touch points? There's all these different places now where you're trying to tell the story.
Yeah, I mean, your own journey or even how you're positioning yourself is an evolution of the process, right? So you call yourself like a creative agency. And I kind of know what that means. Everyone kind of knows what that means, where you're working directly for a brand, you're thinking on a campaign level, you're adding strategy into that conversation. But it also means you're not afraid of all the executional items that need to be done after the fact. So you're kind of blending two disciplines, a production entity in the past or a post entity in the past and a strategy entity, and putting them together. The reason why that's an evolution is that, you know, we'll call like the big agency model, the one that we see on TV, Mad Men and that kind of stuff. In that case, you know, the agency was true to being an agent of their client. So I like to remind people agency implies agentry, like you're acting on behalf of someone. And in those days, these large brands gave a lot of money to their agency, and that agency provided a lot of the strategy front end. You log into a Facebook account, you put a bunch of money in there, and Facebook's algorithms kind of figure that stuff out for you. There's some strategy needed on the creative side. What are we making? Who are we making it for? Who should we hire? Who's our spokesperson? And then influencer marketing also changed that, where influencers are more powerful than the brands in some cases. So
Right. Yeah.
you don't have to have a lot of strategy. You just have to give some money to an influencer and they tweet about it. And then you get the returns. This is not what you do for a living. I do this for you and other clients. You can use my experience, my know-how, and my team to get that work done. I'll do it on your behalf, but I'm going to do it from top to bottom instead of, these big gigantic things. You can kind of micro manage some of that stuff because the efficiency of the system and the buying and the elements are all kind of wrapped into easier packages.
Are you finding with the different agencies you work with or the different creative entrepreneurs, are they like doubling down on a niche or like a specific problem set, like with their positioning? A lot of the conversation is around, the riches are in the niches. Like the more of a niche you own, the bigger fish in the small pond, you're able to do more repeat business. What's that conversation like with you?
Well, it actually has evolved. So I want to say the positioning conversation is probably 10 or 15 years old. And that was where the problem being solved in that timeline was someone was starting a new agency. They looked at their competitors. They copied what was on their website, pasted the same thing on their website. And then, you had this homogenization and nobody knew what anybody did from each other because they were all storytelling, 360 all around fun guys, blah, 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 whatever. So the positioning conversation was very necessary. In reality today, the positioning conversation is somewhat passé. You still need to solve the positioning problem. You have to have a point of view. So today you actually have to step up one step further and put yourself out there more to give the direction. So you have to study more and step one step further towards that client you're working with, one step further into their shoes to really pull yourself out of it. And that's truly in the last, maybe post-COVID, in the last 5 years, that's really been what I've seen.
So when you are talking about point of view, originally you're talking about the point of view of the brand you're working with, helping them articulate that, connect that with their audience. And they didn't have, is that
Yeah, that's right.
am I understanding that the right way?
Yep. But
that's
also
really
you
interesting.
have to have a point of view also for your agency because you're understanding this point of view mechanism. They understand that about you and say, oh, you do this so well. Can you also do that for me? And you're like, yes, I can teach you and your sales team to have a point of view when they're introducing your product to a potential client.
So let me see if I can put some color commentary with an example and see if this is matching what you're saying. Because I think that we maybe have done this, but we don't know that we're doing it sometimes. It's like,
Sure.
we do this for a living, but yet, you don't always know if it's, you're not, wait, is that what you're doing over there, Tim? Is that what you're hearing? So for an example, one of the things that we've studied and focused on a lot, one of the types of pieces of content we create a lot for our clients is a customer success story. And so they're making these products. Let's tell the story of how that product and their people are going out there and transforming a space, for example, or whatever it is. But that's not the goal. The goal is actually, this is kind of middle of the funnel stuff when they're already deciding, they're considering you, working with you.
It doesn't stop the swipe.
It does not stop it's not thumbs stopping. So,
Yeah.
But when it's done really well, it can be really high converting, and when it's done really kind of poorly, it can be low. And one of the things that we've found along the way over years of doing this is it's low when it just sounds like this company is great. You should work with them. It's high, there's also distribution and some other things. But when it sounds like, hey, I had this problem. Let me show you kind of the process of how I went through and solved it. And I'm even going to show you it because it's video. It's like show, don't tell, right? That's the whole purpose of it.
Yeah, and I'll graduate it to one more level from the second level that you had, and it comes from this study since COVID, where a lot of people will say before COVID, before this change in the economy, a lot of the buyers didn't have the right information or the right understanding in order to make a decision. So their lack of engagement or lack of going forward was related to the thought that they just needed one more piece of information or one more data point, and I'd get them to make that decision.
Right.
That's the motivator. So now when you step in a point of view, that customer success story isn't just saying, hey, I have this problem, this company served it. It's more like that customer saying, I didn't realize this yet. And then these people came in and gave me that data point, and I understood something very differently because of it. And therefore, I solved that problem, and therefore, I brought their product.
People need sometimes what they're looking for. Like you said, it's not information, because people are inundated. It's like a model for how to process or a model to how to think.
Yeah.
You know, and to kind of also look at the point of view of the brand. So that's the point of view of us as an agency.
Your positioning or your marketing now has to be able to have some sense of clarity, more about like, what is our standard and why do we have it? You're a trusted source and you're someone that cares about me. Well, you can also see where this would combat the homogenization of AI as well, right? If AI can do something at extreme scales and it could customize that stuff at those scales, but it can't have a human point of view. It's not human. So it could say, I care about you, but it actually doesn't care about you.
And it's interesting too, because there's always the flip side, right? Which is like the noise level has just increased significantly.
Yeah.
Because we're making all this stuff. And I think I saw a statistic or prediction that in 2006, if you just think about content generation, like 90% of the content will be generated by AI, which seems like a high number. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but that's a lot higher than I expected. I'm curious, it's kind of a different question now, but thinking about, the agencies, the creative entrepreneurs that are kind of winning, AKA what are the brands, what are brands out there sort of looking for, buying, what are the problems they're trying to solve?
So one thing I see a lot of brands doing is actually focusing on their branding itself. And I don't know if you've been looped into these like goofy rebrands. That's what people are reacting to. Why would they change this thing that I like, right? So a lot of people are now recognizing the power of brand today because there's the connectivity to that brand, and those connections are becoming stronger and stronger or more necessary.
Yeah.
Add to that the complication of influence marketing, where too many agencies and too many brands over the last decade have passed on those relationships to someone else, an influencer, for an easy buy. It was just really easy to give this influencer my money, get the hits that I needed to, drive them into my social media channels, and then convert them, right? Now those influencers have a very different place and a very different position and might become very unnecessary with generative AI work. Like, I don't need to pay an influencer to do something. I can just fake that connectivity. So to answer your question, what I'm seeing a lot of agencies focusing on, one is just pure core branding. Who are we? How do we have people recognize who we are from a human element, right? Who we are, what we do, why we do it. On the strategy side, on the brand side, and on the overall like rollout or overseeing the rollout of the creative elements. So everything is in sync and staying within brand as expected. Again, like I know a lot of people are pivoting to like employees, like in-house studios, in-house agencies, as they're calling it.
See that.
But I think the behavior of someone in-house, because of where their paycheck comes from, is very different than an out-of-house agency. And I would trust out-of-house agencies for a clearer point of view than my in-house team.
Yeah, and that's, it's interesting because that's one of the things that, what is our clear point of view? and how specific and like niche does it need to be to really stand out? Because, and I think every agency, a lot of agencies struggle with it. Some have probably figured this out really well, and they're killing it.
If you are successful in a niche, like I would recommend understanding why you're that successful there. And if it has a large enough market share, there's no reason to move beyond it.
What are some of the things that are universally working right now for these agency owners or creative entrepreneurs?
The first thing that comes to mind is the pitch. I think that the concept and conversation around pitching has totally changed. People, the ones that are winning now are bringing conversations and elements into the pitch that were not requested as part of the original kind of pitch conversation.
It's like adding more value, bringing more value.
Yeah, asking the bigger question, showing more need. Now, it's important to clarify that would be welcome in the room. There
Right.
are some requests for proposals that are very static and you could be wasting people's time. So just the thought process of like, it's not just about pretty pictures or doing what everyone's always done before, but to have mechanisms of what is changing, why it's changing, and what's going on. I think that is one of the big things I'm learning.
And that relates to your point of view, bringing a point of view into the room.
Yeah, it definitely influences your point of view to understand something. I mean, learn something new for goodness sakes, and then take that new knowledge into a room instead of using your old knowledge. That's probably the best challenge.
Yeah.
Calling the people they know, following through with people, being consistent, being persistent if needed be into those relationships. Those are the winning combinations I'm seeing.
I think the flip side of that too is like, okay, well, those brands we're talking about are made up of real people that are really, really busy, and they're not thinking about you at all.
Yeah.
They do actually, like the ones that we want to work with are the ones that want to go make a dent in the universe, right? And they don't have time to even hardly keep up with their own day. And so I think that's important to understand is like, what are these people looking for? They're looking for go-getters. They're looking for somebody like who's going to keep showing up and not give up, you know?
Yeah, we have an advisor, his name's Joe Valentine. He owned his own agency out of Chicago. And Joe's amazing because he kind of is a no BS kind of a person. And he grew his agency from like 1 million to 10 million before he exited it. So he kind of really knows the hard work to get those jobs in-house. But he's also like, maybe it is helpful to have a coach like Joe in your life if you're afraid to always follow through. You think you're being too much. It's nice to have somebody just reminding you like all the different ways you can reach out to somebody, all the different ways you can be relevant to them when you're doing that reach out, and to be honest with yourself and honest with who that client is.
And it's funny, that just reminded me, I was just I recently met a guy who leads creative at Kohl's, but he previously owned and operated agencies in one agency for a long time. And one of the things he said was, he's like, you just hear, it's just, the conversation is totally different on this corporate side. And one of the things he said was, what I didn't know, and he'd done some really big projects with his agency, like, some of these, like you did the 7, some of these like hang your hat on type projects. It's like, they're never thinking about you,
Never.
the agency. They're never, ever talking about you. They're never thinking about you. And so to that point, you have to show up.
That's right.
Like to stay top of mind, you have to do that. And I think one of the cool opportunities with creative entrepreneurs and agency owners is like, you're creative. Like you can creatively come up with a creative way that you could show up in a unique way.
Come on,
Like,
Matt,
what's
you're
that
preaching
look like?
it, man. That's exactly it. Like, what part of the creative world did you give up when you're doing this part? Like, use your creative energy. That's the superpower you have. Why would you turn that off right now? Yeah.
So we have that advantage, I think, as agency creative people. So we got to use
Absolutely.
it. But Tim, I could talk about this all day long, but I really appreciate you coming on and dropping some knowledge here. And things are changing. They're changing faster than ever. It's hard to keep up with, but we'll do our best, I guess.
Yeah, I love it. I'm thanks for inviting me on. I feel very lucky to be able to have these conversations, and it comes with the thought of like, I do think I sit in a unique position where I get to talk to hundreds of agencies, honestly. We have a community of about 800 business owners from around the world, so I listen to really large conversations, and I need somewhere to put it. So I love giving a chance when to have someone ask me questions and to get some of this out of my brain, because it just sits there. We have a weekly conversation every Wednesday at 2:00, open to everyone on the planet. Like, you can come and join us. And I still can't get it all out. That's 52 times a year I'm producing content, and there's so much more that I'm seeing. So thanks for giving me a chance to do that.
Well, it's such a unique perspective, and the community is awesome. And I've talked to, I'm actually kind of new to the community, but I've already joined one of the calls, and very recently, and it's already been like, oh my gosh, this room exists. Holy cow, it's amazing. These people are out there, my peers.
Yeah.
So important, I think, when you're the solopreneur or anybody, you need to have community, because you're not alone. One question I always ask everybody.
Ask me away.
What is, maybe this is for agency owners, creative entrepreneurs, what is a word or a phrase we should no longer use in the workplace? And this could be in the pitch, or this could be with each other. What do we need to retire? What comes to mind?
Yeah, I might be cheating here, but I still would, because when you and I did a podcast, I used this phrase there too. But I firmly believe the concept of fake it till you make it is such a misunderstanding of what making it really is. I understand the perspective of it feels like you're faking it until you can make it. But my understanding really is that actually is just making it. That feeling of being uncomfortable is the making it process. And I want people to know that, because I want them to always be making something. Fake it till you make it is the wrong way of looking at making it.
And you talk a lot about that with this concept of, like, people think you're gonna arrive at some point, whatever that thing is. I'm gonna arrive, and it's gonna be like, I will have figured out sales, or I will have figured out my business, or I will have figured out what brands need, but you just never arrive. You're always you're on the way somewhere. So
yeah, if you know my 4 stages of a creative career, you know that what we're looking for, we grow from this artist stage where we're just a doer to the auteur stage. And the auteur stage is when I say other people do the work, but you get credit for it. So that's like being a creative director or a business owner or whatever, where, like, there's usually something in your career that you stand out, even though other people have done part of it. You then move to what I call the curator stage. And that curator stage has this sense of, like, you're doing something, but you're also giving credit to others while you're doing it. So imagine, like, a gallery owner is promoting the art of an artist, but it's the artist's work, their name, and then your name together. So that's a maturity factor that you have to get there. But this last stage is the collector stage. And so, to your point, like, you never get to a point when you're done, but you can get to a volume of your collection, the relationships you have, the knowledge you have, the means at which you have to do with it. And your collection can be large enough that you can work within that collection. That's what we're gaining. That's what we're trying to build up. Some influence, some opportunities, some flow, but you have to be willing to give it away in order to get it in the collector stage. So that's what I feel like we're often working towards. That's making it. That's the final collection piece, or final resting place for us in this creative career, is we have to have that level of collection around us.
Give it away, give it away, give it away now.
Yeah, that's why I love it.
Hot Chili Peppers. Well, may we all become collectors. Tim, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, Matt, it's a pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
El Fangal.